Hey, you. Welcome back to the channel. Guys, I hope you're having a great day. So I want to talk to you all about Bitcoin MYK seeking to be added to the digital currency group. And so what is the digital currency group? I'm just going to read to you who they say they are. Our mission is to accelerate the development of a better financial system. We build and support Bitcoin and blockchain companies by leveraging our insights, network, and access to capital. And so they have these many subsidiaries here listed that you probably well know: Genesis, Grayscale, CoinDesk. So this is a big investment group, real big, huge. And this isn't our first encounter with the digital currency group as far as the content we provided to you all. So what happened today was I reached out to the digital currency group and made their company aware of Bitcoin MYK and that we thought it'd be a great idea to add them or for them to add us to their portfolio. And so we've contacted them and hopefully they'll get back with us with some great news, hopefully. And we also provided them a lot of information about Bitcoin MYK. So a little bit, if you don't quite understand the significance of Bitcoin MYK, I want to just give you some details that a lot of us tend to focus on what we do with the tokens and the coins that aren't claimed. We came up with this model where a very small percentages of unclaimed, locked up coins that maybe belong to deceased people that will never be touched. We kind of came up with a concept of putting those coins back in circulation to the community, right? So they can get access to these coins and you don't have these locked up coins, but you have this value now being rewarded and distributed to the rest of the community. Now, and the rest of it is it follows the Bitcoin ledger continually. Now, that's the important part to understand, that we follow the Bitcoin ledger continually, and a lot of this gets missed. So what does that mean exactly? Well, it means if you're a Bitcoin miner and you continually mine more and more Bitcoin, you receive more and more Bitcoin MYK. Now, what's significant about this and what can be done with this is it'll allow the Bitcoin community to be able to move this type of representative value of their Bitcoin across networks at high speeds. Now, of course, the solution to solve this problem was meant to be Bitcoin Lightning Network. But we've noticed some issues with Bitcoin Lightning Network, even if it's all the bugs are taken out of the system and it begins to work better. There is an issue called payment channels. Now, how payment channels work is it means that you can only move your value to people who are connected to you as your payment channel. And in order to get connected to a person who has many payment channels, kind of think of it like Facebook, and think about being on Facebook and not having any friends. And you get one friend and that one friend has two friends. And now you can kind of see what friends he has and so on and so forth. Well, that's how the Bitcoin Lightning Network will work. Unless you can home in on people who have a big network of people, then you're not going to be able to send payments to anybody except the people in your network. Whereas Bitcoin MYK, a Bitcoin holder, he can send, let's quote unquote, his represented value of Bitcoin to anybody on the Bitcoin MYK network. Unlike the Bitcoin Lightning Network, which you can only send to people who are in your particular network. You might have one or two people in your network. So then what happens is you get this bottlenecking of everybody trying to find a person who has a big network, and then that person becomes centralized because now he has everybody going through him. He controls all the networks, and this is kind of anti-Bitcoin. So in that regard, I think Bitcoin NYK would work better in that. By following the ledger every step of the way, it basically means that as a person who holds Bitcoin, as their value increases over the value of the Bitcoin in their wallets, they can now claim the Bitcoin NYK tokens over that value, and they're able to now send that representative value to X and Y and Z. So it's kind of almost like how an atomic swap could work, you know, in addition to that, like how they, you know, and so here's some companies in the digital coin group portfolio. Many companies, you know, all they have all of the big companies in their, you know, in their portfolios, and it looks like they have some major businesses as well. So very, very powerful group, a lot of money. And so to speak about it again, I'm going to go back to the significance of Bitcoin NYK, why people want to have it. Then I'm going to go back to a little bit of history of the digital currency group. But so Bitcoin NYK, now we got that part down, that it can kind of work as this fast payment system for Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin Lightning Network, many of us are discovering, may not be the solution we thought it would be. But in addition to that, the price trading of Bitcoin NYK right now is very, very low. The value is just only about 39 cents. So as an investor or someone holding a big portfolio, the growth potential of Bitcoin NYK from 39 cents on up, I mean, that could be very well for a portfolio. Now, the part many people focus on is what we do with these unclaimed tokens that circulate into our universal basic income program. Now, I'm not going to go deep into that part because that's the part everybody's aware of. But, you know, obviously, if you don't understand that universal basic income is a mass adoption vehicle when 80% of the globe is, you know, living paycheck to paycheck or can barely make ends meet, then I think you really need to reevaluate that. Now, those are some of the components of Bitcoin NYK, some of the more important factors, it being a Bitcoin fork, serving all the Bitcoin holders' needs. If you hold Bitcoin, you don't need, you know, you don't need to buy Bitcoin NYK. That's the definition of a fork. Just kind of come into the network. But you can see it has a great deal of upside potential. Its interfaces like social networks you've seen before, so it makes it easier for new people to be able to adopt it easier, right? So let's get into a little bit of the history of the digital currency group and why we think it'd be a great idea to be listed as part of their portfolio, and why we've reached out to them. And I think it's a good idea for them from an economic standpoint, from a doing the right thing standpoint, and also, you know, just a good idea, I like to think in general. But let's look at the early history of the digital currency group. Now, many of you know that I kind of do a mix of providing some of the latest cryptocurrency news, promoting my projects, and just hopefully practical things that give you some kind of insight into something of use to you. Hopefully watching the channel is you've gotten some use from it. That's the idea behind it anyway. Now, the digital currency group was featured on one of our videos. This information didn't originate with us. It originated across the internet with major YouTube crypto news channels. And it talks about the digital currency group being in control of pretty much everything that goes on in cryptocurrency through a company called Blockstreams that is connected to the chairman of the Bilderbergs. So then it starts to have this very Illuminati-like feel to it. It's also connected to the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank, and all these major players. And the one of the main managers or I believe he's the CEO of the Digital Currency Group. I remember him some years ago when I was working for an investment firm. He started something called Second Market, was like this over-the-counter market for private companies, right? Private stock. And he made a great success of that. And then from that point on, he somehow got into cryptocurrency. And the theory goes, or what's going around online, is he got connected to all these major people that not only have big stakes in all these cryptocurrencies, of course, the ones that, oh, and look there, Coinbase, and this is where a lot of conspiracy theory came from about Digital Currency Group dealing with Coinbase. And it had a lot to do with how Coinbase was listing seemingly every a coin token that the Digital Currency Group had in their portfolio. But some updated news on that, and I want to relay that, as again, guys, the information doesn't originate with me. I don't really do opinions. I just do the facts. I'll put the information out there like many other crypto news guys might do. But when it comes to definitive information, I only deal with the facts. Now, Coinbase was listing many tokens that the Digital Currency Group had. But as I understand it now, Coinbase was listing that because it's easier for them to implement ERC20 tokens into it. And the Digital Currency Group, it would seem, well, obviously all the major players, they're just gonna own anyway, because that's what they do. Their investment, obviously they're gonna invest in the bigger, more popular coins. But, apparently there were some coins being listed. People didn't think that was that popular. That was just weird. But our understanding now is because they were ERC20 related, and it was just easier for Coinbase to implement them first and then move on to some of those other coins we thought should have came before them. Okay, if that makes sense. So all this information has come out about the Digital Currency Group, their relation to Blockstream, which is this big company that has a big foothold on Bitcoin, and they have about 2 or 3 members that control a lot of the. In other words, they feel like Bitcoin has been taken over by Blockstreams, and the real information about that is there are Blockstream workers there, but the problem is, or working on the Bitcoin core and controlling the blocks that are being mined, is they're trying to say, I guess, like it's becoming this monopoly. But they found that it's really not that many as it was being suggested. And there's Grayscale. You probably hear a lot about Grayscale making huge investments into Bitcoin. So again, these are all in their portfolios. And so it wasn't, I guess you could say it was some kind of a little breadcrumb drops around that, but then you can easily concoct that story to make it mean what you want. Now, so that, I think that kind of, answers why we would, want to be added to their portfolio. And so we'll see what happens with that, and what they're looking for. Obviously, they're going to be evaluating many of these tokens and what they do and their value and what it can do for them in the future. But I did spend a short stint working at a venture capital firm, and they do like to sometimes target unknown things obviously they think they can have the better return on. And some of the problems with, Bitcoin and many of these major cryptocurrencies is you got to put a ton of money, into them for them to have significant gains, right? Like we discussed before, for Bitcoin at $4,000 to go to like $8,000, that would mean the market would require about another $70 billion in Bitcoin. Not a little bit of money by a small, whereas you take something like Bitcoin NYK, and if $70 billion went in there from 39 cents up to thousands of dollars, obviously a lot of people would make a great deal of money. So It's more easier to get 100%, 500%, 10,000% return on some type of Bitcoin fork or that has value and that can build a huge network than to hope that Bitcoin can go to $1 trillion market capitalization. For us to get some of the returns and come up with some of the ideas that many people have invested in Bitcoin for. So that's just some information, just some things I found interesting to talk about. There's Ripple for you Ripple people, you XRP lovers, and all in the digital currency group portfolio. If I were a conspiracy theorist, I probably would lean to the direction that these guys are the Illuminati of cryptocurrency. That is not my opinion. However, I am a very practical man, and I hope that Bitcoin MYK finds its way here in their portfolio. We're going to do a lot of good work. We're going to achieve, in my opinion, mass adoption before anybody else does, because I feel that our token not only represents and serves the people, it will be a token that gives more value back to the people. Guys, if you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and until next time, take care.